Think you're smarter than all your friends? Now you can put your brain to the ultimate test. Riddles have been used for millennia to stimulate our minds and test our ability to reason and problem solve. Here are 5 of the most famous and challenging riddles, so let's see how well you can do. Number 1. The Riddle of the Sphinx. The Riddle of the Sphinx is probably the most famous of all the traditional riddles. The Sphinx was said to guard the entrance to the ancient Egyptian city of Thebes, and would ask this question of every traveler who wished to pass. What is it that has one voice and yet becomes 4-footed and 2-footed and 3-footed? So the story goes, the Sphinx killed anyone who failed to solve this riddle, which is quite simple if you really think about it. The answer was finally correctly given by Oedipus, who realized that it was man who crawls on 4 feet when young, walks on 2 when grown, and walks with the aid of a staff when old. In solving the riddle, Oedipus saved the city from the Sphinx, who went on to kill herself. Number 2. The Hobbit. J.R.R. Tolkien was to many a literary genius, and he featured a number of riddles in his novels. In The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins finds himself lost in a tunnel with Gollum. They begin a game of riddles. If Bilbo won, Gollum would show him to safety. If he lost, he would become lunch. The final riddle given by Gollum was this. This thing all things devours, birds, beasts, trees, flowers. Gnaws iron, bites steel, grinds hard stones to meal. Slays kings, ruins town, and beats mountain down. Take a moment to think about it. Would you have won your freedom from the tunnel? It's typically forewarning of Tolkien for what's to come in the stories, because the answer to this riddle is time. In the face of it, everything wears away eventually. Number 3. The House. This riddle is thought to be one of the first ever written, and dates back as far as 4000 BC from the Sumer civilization. They introduced the world to some of the earliest examples of writing, irrigation, and the rule of law. But this is a poetic sign of the value they gave to knowledge. The translation of this riddle can make it more difficult than it needs to be, so the shortened version is often asked. There is a house. One enters it blind and comes out seeing. What is it? The Sumerians used riddles to teach the values of their culture, and this one is no different. The answer is one of the most important buildings in their civilization, which is a school. Number 4. The Door to Heaven and Hell. This riddle has been thought over by people for centuries and requires you to think laterally to figure it out. It was also famously included in the movie Labyrinth, where the correct answer was given. You find yourself in the afterlife, stood in front of 2 doors. One leads to heaven and one leads to hell. In front of each door is a guard. One of them always tells the truth and one of them lies. You don't know which is which. You are permitted to ask one question to one guard before choosing the door you will enter. What do you ask to ensure you make the correct choice? There are a number of ways you can phrase a question that would solve this riddle, but they all need to involve asking how the other guard would respond, such as which door would the other guard say leads to heaven? If you ask this to the lying guard, he will point you towards the door to hell, because he knows the truthful guard would point you to heaven. If you ask the truthful guard, he would also point the door to hell, because that's where the lying guard would direct you. As long as you actually enter the door that isn't pointed towards, you will find yourself in a good place. And lastly, number 5, Odin's Riddle. In the Icelandic story, the Hervarar saga, King Hydrik is challenged by the god Odin to answer a series of riddles. If he won, he would be allowed to slay the person that Odin was impersonating. On the other hand, if he lost, he would need to set him free. There were 14 riddles in all, but this is the one that is often quoted from the tale. 4 hang, 4 sprang, 2 point the way, 2 to ward off the dogs. 1 dangles after, always rather dirty. To what do I refer? The king answered this one correctly. Have you got it too? It's a cow that has 4 feet and 4 udders, 2 horns and 2 eyes, and the tail dangles after. King Hydrik failed to answer his final riddle and in a rage threw his sword, turfing, to slash Odin. The god turned into a hawk and flew out of the hall, but not before his tail feathers were cut, which is said to be why hawks to this day have stubby tails. So how many did you get right? If you got them all, you're truly among the most clever. Let us know in the comments below how well you did, and share with us any other cool riddles that you know. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a like down below. Click the